Fala galera do vídeo do canal, como vocês estão? Tudo jóia, tudo beleza? Chegando aqui com mais uma novidade. Olha o que esse grupo de pessoas estão fazendo. Eles estão recriando Nova York, galera, dentro do Minecraft. Você que é fã do Minecraft e não sabia, assim, porque poucas pessoas ficaram sabendo sobre isso. Eles demoraram mais de 4 anos para finalizar esse projeto. Eles fizeram assim com todas as medidas, até o caso de temperatura, eles pensaram em cada detalhe, galera. É muito top isso. Dá uma olhada comigo e eu vou falando conforme o vídeo, para vocês ter uma noção mais ou menos do que é. Mas eu vou falar mais ou menos que foi uma recriação. É uma recriação que está sendo feita em tamanho real, que significa que cada edifício e rua corresponde ao tamanho real da cidade de Nova York. Olha que absurdo, vamos dar uma olhada aqui.
You ready for a tour? Let's start it off with the architecture.
Galera, foram mais de 2.000 jogadores ajudando a desenvolver isso, que foi liderado pelo youtuber Minecraft. Ele que está recriando essa cidade de Nova York. Bora lá.
Thing is that it is very gray and very see-through. There's a lot of glass. Now, this, of course, was our very first prototype for the 3D design. We're in the city of Andia, by the way. That is the neighborhood of Monstera over there. So given that this building
olha
is intended to be
detalhes,
built,
assim, tipo, é surreal. E imagina todas as medidas de pilar, tamanho de rua, foi tudo pensado assim, metricamente, né? Eles fizeram um negócio assim surreal, de tamanho real mesmo, né? Nossa, tô me bananando todo. E não, eu achei um negócio surreal e eu falei assim, meu, eu tenho que trazer isso aqui pro Brasil, né? Porque não foi divulgado tanto pra nós isso aqui. E aí eu falei, meu, é um conteúdo legal pra trazer pros seguidores aqui.
Near Ottawa, Canada, which here's what the climate looks like. It gets pretty cold in winter. These glass windows ended up not happening. We had lots of glass, not great for the thermal performance.
Os vidros fizeram.
However, what we did end up keeping is a lot of glass down on the bottom floor, and there's a very architectural reason for that. Walking along. Wow, I can't wait to get a coffee. Oh, is this a coffee shop? Yes, it is. I'm sure glad this is a glass wall, so I can see in and see that it's actually a coffee shop. Because if this was not, and this was a giant brick wall with no windows, I would not be going inside. So if you have glass walls, especially on your ground floor commercial units where you want people to come in, then you're going to make a lot more money for your tenants, and your tenants who are paying you rent, you as in the owner of the building, you're going to get paid more. But as you can see,
galera, eles fizeram também, e vai ter mais pra frente, o sistema de metrô. Olha que absurdo isso que eles fizeram, velho. Não, é um negócio assim, esse projeto inclui toda a reprodução fiel mesmo dos detalhes arquitetos, sabe? Arquitetônico, né, que fala. Por exemplo, as janelas, as fachadas, todas as placas de trânsito, tudo que tem em Nova York. Se você pegar o Google Maps e colocar lá, vai ter nessa cidade que eles estão recriando no Minecraft. Olha que absurdo. Eu só não sei se eles vão abrir pra todos, né? Como que vai ser, mas eu tenho curiosidade de entrar. Não sei vocês aí, coloca nos comentários o que vocês acham aí.
a lot of this is actually, all of it is not furnished. We do have the floor plans in place, and we do have a handful of signs saying where things are going to go, but keep in mind, again, this is just the preliminary 3D concept. But anyway, if we keep walking over here, you'll notice that this is also glass. Now, this is not a commercial unit. This is actually the entryway to the residential units on floors 2, 3, and 4. So if we go inside, we have this thing called a vestibule, which means you have one wall, another wall, and then there's supposed to be a door here and here so that you can let somebody in. There's going to be a keypad here. You go beep, boop, beep. I have your pizza. Let me in. And you say, okay. And then you let them in. They go here. They go up the elevators.
Eles fizeram com as medidas real do negócio. They go to your unit
and they say, hey, retour these cascading balconies, which I think is a pretty cool design. However, we did end up having some issues with these, and it did end up being pretty complicated for a number of reasons, which I won't get into. We can see that the balconies are actually overhangs as well for the floors below them. Now, I don't have shaders on right now because my computer and shaders don't agree, but this way is facing south, and that is very important for the design of this building because in the north...
Mano, você viu a posição do sol? Mano, Meu, que coisa profissional,
Northern
velho.
Hemisphere, where Ottawa, Ontario,
Que
Canada is,
absurdo.
facing south, that is where you're going to get the most sunlight
Olha
exposure.
isso, gente, a posição do sol.
If you want to heat your building using
É
the
a
power of
posição
the
do sol
sun,
real.
we call that solar heat gains. And we use that
Que
combined with
absurdo.
these things on the roof right here. This is HVAC,
Olha o ar-condicionado
HVAC.
trabalhando.
This takes in air from the surroundings. It also recycles the air from in
Mano,
the building.
lembrando,
and
galera,
can
que existe o CAD, né? O CAD é um programa profissional que todos os arquitetos e engenheiros usam para fazer projeto. E os caras falaram assim, não, vamos fazer tudo diferente, vamos fazer dentro do Minecraft. Mano, que loucura.
combines
Que
with the
loucura.
power of the sun. That is how you heat this building. However, there is another element that is hidden. Now, I don't actually have it here. However, if we go to another one of my buildings, where are we? We are in the city of Everton, which is a different city from the one we were just in.
Nossa.
But some of you might recognize this from one of my other videos. This
Olha
is
isso.
my laneway house. If we go
Olha,
underneath
energia
this
solar,
driveway
galera.
and dig it up, oh, what's that down there? There seems to be something down here.
Nossa.
This is geothermal. So essentially what it does is it gathers
Mano, não acredito, velho. Olha o que os caras pensaram, velho.
heat from the ground and it brings it back into the house, and then it uses this thing called radiant flooring, where this
Surreal,
heat that's
galera.
gathered from the earth goes into pipes. Essentially it just has hot water in it. It goes through the floor and then your floors radiate heat up. So that combined with the HVAC system, combined with solar heat gains, that is one of the most efficient ways to heat your building.
Eu tô impressionado,
Let me
galera.
just fix that up, otherwise I'm gonna forget. Okay, let's go back. Now,
Meu
the other
Deus.
side of this is how do you cool your building? What you're gonna want to do is offset those solar heat gains. So in the summer, you're probably not gonna want a whole lot of sun coming into your building. Now, thankfully, the sun in the summer is higher in the sky compared to in the winter
Olha
when
lá,
it's
falando sobre o
lower
raio de
across the sky.
sol.
So when it's higher in the sky, say on June 21st during the summer solstice, let's say it'll be right about there. So the way that we calculate the
Será que
size
é-
of our overhangs, calculated from the edge of the window to right about here, we're going to take that angle, do
a
a little bit.
cobertura aqui faz quando o sol, né? O sol está no meio do céu. Ele falou que faz até a sombra correta aqui do. Eu acho que foi
Trigonometry,
isso,
beep,
tá?
boop, beep. There you go.
Eu
You
não
have the
falo
perfect
inglês,
length
galera.
of your
Só,
overhang
só
so that you
arranha.
shade your entire window on June 21st at noon. Now, it doesn't have to be June 21st at noon. You can say, hey, I want to shade the entire window on June 21st from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. if you wanted to. It just depends on your climate. Now, something else you might be thinking is, hey, Alpine, what about, and when the sun's about that, side fins? And actually, a better representation would be this glass pane.
lá,
See
ele
how that's sticking out a
apresentando-
little bit here? So side fins stick out like this from the window. And what they do is you space them at different intervals and they will block
Olha
the
lá,
sun.
galera. Olha lá. Eles sabiam a posição, né? Que ficava do sol da janela pra ficar igualzinho como é o real.
During the late morning. Then when it gets closer to
Mano,
noon,
que detalhe,
that is
que-
when
que
your
carinho,
overhangs
né,
are going to
velho?
come into effect. And then the sun is going to continue going this way, I hope.
Olha o
And once
guindaste
it gets
lá,
somewhere
galera.
over here, your building is already going to be quite warm
Olha,
since it has been,
olha isso aqui. Que perfeição, cara. Mano,
heating the entire day.
que
So you're probably
surreal.
not going to want a whole lot of solar heat gains in the afternoon, especially in the summer. So you're going to want more right on this side as well, which is your western facade. So that's kind of the idea. On the north side, which is this side right here, your sun is, I don't think it's ever going to hit this side. It might a little bit, depending on the orientation of your building, if it's not perfectly north, south, east,
Nossa,
west.
ele
which
tem que
ours
dar
was
rolê
not.
logo aí
But
na
in the case of
cidade.
Minecraft,
Olha lá, falando do campo de grama que tem, tá vendo? Ó, o local que fica e aonde é que eles fizeram.
it is. So the actual size of the windows here, that's up to our energy modeling, which we did a lot of. Now, just a couple more things before we go inside. You'll
Caraca,
see
velho.
these columns that repeat themselves all the way around the building. See how there's that column right there? That lines up perfectly with this one. And then over here, you have another column that also lines up perfectly with that one. If we were to cut this building open,
PROJETO.
you would see that these columns line up on a grid.
Nossa.
This is called a structural grid.
Caraca,
When you design a building, it makes it
surreal.
much easier for your structural engineers
Projeto
and
de
probably the people actually putting the
1990.
building together to design this
Pra
on a
isso foi
structural
construído,
grid.
né?
Now, if we fly all the way up
Pelo que eu
top,
entendi.
we can take a look at
As
the
a-
roof. And this is pretty interesting because it doesn't
As
look like
energia solar.
your typical roof, which might look something like this. Now, over here, we'll notice that we have a lot of grass and
Esses
greenery.
telhadinhos ali lembram muito do PUBG, né? Que as escadas saem de cima do telhado, né?
We also have these solar panels, also known
Ah
as
lá, as
photovoltaics,
escadinhas,
or
lembra
PVs
muito.
for short. And then we have
Até
something
o
right
Call of
here. What is
Duty, né?
this? Oh, it's a staircase. And it seems to be
Nossa,
an identical
galera,
one over
que
here. Is this also a
carinho,
staircase?
ó.
Yes, it is. And then there's sort of this connecty thingy that goes through as well.
No,
There's also a
olha a
ladder here for
escadinha.
the maintenance people if they need to get up here for some reason.
Mano.
And once we go inside the building, we'll see that the elevator is actually right
Incrível
underneath
isso.
here. So these things that go above the top of the roof, these are called overruns. So this is a stair overrun, and then in this corner right under here is the elevator. So this is called an elevator overrun. Now the
São os elevadores,
this
é
is of course called a green roof. Now it has a number of benefits, especially when you're trying to design a building to net zero standards. Now dirt will act as an insulator, and since hot air rises, especially when, you know,
Mano, eu não sabia, os caras faziam tipo um jardim no telhado pra ajudar, né? No meio ambiente e tal, por conta da água, né? Eu não sei muito bem como que fala, mas eu sei que ajuda muito isso no ecossistema e tal, né?
you have a building designed in a cold climate, your hot air is going to rise, and if you don't have any insulation on your roof, then that heat is just going to go right through. It's going to escape. I mean, technically, all heat will escape at some point if your heat is turned off, but you know what? Thermodynamics. We'll talk about that later. Actually, you know what? No, we won't.
Ele meteu um nerd ali.
But this green roof will help keep a lot of the
Embaixo disso aqui eles fizeram tudo o que foi feito no projeto real, com metal antes e tal.
heat in, especially during the
Loucura.
winters. Now you'll also see a lot of grass and little bushes up here. This is great because it's going to help create a nice little ecosystem. One thing we also considered on this...
Ei, não deixou o like ainda? Deixa o like aí, pô, tá perdendo tempo. Ajuda demais, galera, o like, deixa o like aí. E bora pro vídeo de novo, vamos continuar aqui. Valeu, hein? Tamo junto. Não deu like ainda? Deixa o like aí, pô, ajuda demais, comenta aí. Tamo junto, bora.
Roof is the collection of water. Ideally, we would like to collect as much water as we need, and if we need to, we could supplement it by being connected to the city's water grid. Although, I mean, we'd prefer not to, but sometimes it is necessary. But of course, this all depends on how much rain wherever you're building a building is actually going to get. If you're making a building in the middle of the desert, that's probably pretty tough to do unless you don't use any water at all. We designed some cisterns to collect the water, and then they'll be stored in the cisterns, and then when you need them, you can either use them as gray water for toilets, or you can filter the water. Ideally, all of the energy that this building uses would come from these PV panels. However, we have decided to attach this building to the city's power grid anyway. That way, if we are producing more energy than we are consuming at a specific...
Esse aqui eu não sei o que eles estão falando, não. Pique. O que é pique mesmo? Tem uns horários aqui, ó.
time, probably during the summer in the middle of the day, then we can sell some of this energy back to the city's power grid. And then in the winter, when we don't produce enough, that means we could buy some energy back from the city. So let's go take a look inside. But actually, before we do that, I'm going to show you this. This is a little tunnel to get over here. Now, there is a glaring issue with this tunnel that our professor brought up to us, and he made a very, very good point. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I want to see if you guys can figure it out in the comments. It has to do with the cold weather. Let me know what you think. So if we go down to the entrance, let's head inside. Hello, vestibule. In here we have some seating, which has not been implemented. This is the residential lobby, just to remind you, is one of your staircases, which we saw up top. Over here, I'm not sure what this is, but it does connect to your staircases. And by Canadian building code, you do need to connect one of your staircases directly outside. It cannot exit through the building. Bike room, that's pretty important. It's pretty good. It's nice to have in any residential building lobby. Have some cool windows, design or not. But
Olha lá, galera,
either way,
projeto real.
in the summers, it probably would have gotten pretty hot with those large west-facing windows.
Lord.
But yeah, let's go up here. So up to floor number 2. All of these floor plans are very, very similar, with the exception of the
Esse pá
units on
ali
the
era pra
south
ser elevador,
from those
né?
cascading balconies. So if we go in here, here's the first unit. You have a little closet. And the idea with these trips, our initial 3D model, we just kept them low like this so you can fly around very easily and see where the walls are, because if you just brought them all the way up, it's kind of tough to see.
Nossa,
And we
que
did end up
absurdo.
moving around some floor plans, but for the most part, I think it ended up being pretty similar. But you get some bedrooms in here, no closet.
Aí eu estava lendo mais sobre, galera, a escolha de Nova York foi uma estratégia, pois é uma cidade grande quantidade de informações e dados disponíveis. Então, a Nova York, eles têm todas as informações para conseguir chegar nisso aí. Então, assim, todos os projetos das casas e tal, eles tinham acesso. Então, facilitou muito eles terem todas as medidas para conseguir construir a cidade, entendeu? E facilitou muito o processo da construção no jogo. Aí o objetivo aqui, né, que fala: o projeto Build the Earth busca criar uma representação virtual do planeta, promovendo a colaboração e a conexão entre jogadores de todo o mundo. Essa iniciativa demonstra a capacidade do Minecraft de unir pessoas em projetos ambiciosos e criativos, utilizando a plataforma como espaço de colaboração e exploração ao mundo.
The corner.
Muito
You have
massa,
an
né?
ensuite. You have another bedroom. If we hop over the wall here, what do we got? Walk-in closets. This one is a washroom. Another bedroom. This is a pretty nice one in the corner. Look at that view. Then over there, bedroom, and then you have that ensuite again. Then back here, this is kind of the main living area. You have your dining, and then you have a kitchen in this corner here. So I'll bring you through the other 2 units just very quickly. Kind of the same idea. Large open space, some bedrooms, an ensuite in that back corner, and then another washroom right there. Now, one of the issues that you do have to be concerned about when you're designing floor plans is how do you design it around these columns that go straight up and down. If we go over here, oh, there's McDonald's there. You have a closet. Over here, dining room. You have a bedroom back in this corner. Kitchen, living room, and then you have more bedrooms, washrooms, and then you have an ensuite or a walk-in closet way back
Galera, lembrando que a escala é 1 para 1, tá?
corner. So let's go out here. Those are the 3 units. If we were to go up to the 3rd or the 4th floor, this unit on the end would be very similar, except it's pushed in a few blocks. And you have an exit out onto the balcony right here with this beautiful view of the skyline. It doesn't get much better than that. That's pretty good. This is going to stay a park, by the way. I don't know how much progress I'm going to be making on this city, but it's pretty cool. Very nice view. But yeah, that is our 3D preliminary model for our 4th year engineering design project. So this is probably the building that I've put the most thought into over the past 10 years in Minecraft. Although I do have some other ones that do look quite cool. Lots of cool buildings over here. And then of course, a lot of those ones over there.
Imagina a dedicação.
I have also put a lot of time and effort
2.000
into.
pessoas, você
But this
controlar
one,
2.000
it might
pessoas
be my
para
favorite.
construir
Thank you to
negócio
Carleton
desse.
University, my university,
Não,
for
é surreal.
sponsoring this video. If you would like to learn more information about
Olha
a
isso.
potential degree at Carleton University and all the opportunities that it offers, check out the links below. Anyway, my name is Matt. If you like this video, click like. If you really like it, click
Nossa.
subscribe. My name is Matt. I already said that. I don't know how to end a video. I don't know how to make YouTube videos.
Que
Despite the
maneiro,
number that you
velho,
see
que
below,
maneiro.
I don't know what I'm doing. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Parabéns a todos envolvidos aí, né? E o que eu tava lendo, galera, a ideia é eles fazerem o mundo inteiro, né? Eles desenvolveram o mundo inteiro, começaram em Nova York porque era mais fácil, né, de ter as
Hello.
informações,
How's
né?
it going? Welcome back
aqui-
to the city of Sequoia. Over the past few weeks, I've gotten a lot of help.
Eu
As I
acho que
put out a builder application
deve ficar em alguma parte de Nova York, se eu não me engano, né? Não conheço, tá?
form, and now check this out. There's a lot more
E
buildings
esse
here.
é o
Some of them are
youtuber,
flying
galera,
around here,
conhecido.
but those are work in progress. Oh, never mind. Those are just distant horizons that don't want to work. For those of you that are new here, Distant Horizons is a mod in which it allows you to see very, very far, which is pretty cool. If you do zoom in far enough, it does look
Das
I also have a
montanhas.
pretty cool work in progress that's going to be, but guys, real quick, just in a quick
As
update video.
quadrinhas.
Had more help recently. Well, I guess the only other guy except for me is Matt at Arch. His name is also Matt, but he built this, which is pretty cool.
Mano,
This is based.
eles conseguem colocar. Mano, tinha um prédio em construção na vida real, eles colocaram a redinha pra como se tivesse em construção mesmo, igual tá no dia de hoje, sabe?
On one in East Village. I forget what it's called, but it is a very cool build. It kind of reminds me of Marvel, you know, but he was also working on this laundromat. I don't know what's going on with operations, but I won't dig too much. Over here, we also have this building, which I am a big fan of. This is also built by Jeff. What does it say? El Rey de las Hamburgers. I'm gonna stop trying to pronounce that because I'm definitely gonna be okay. Definitely one thing only less than that in this locker case inside of your shear wall. Perfect. Very well done. What do you have back here? A little bathroom? A little thing. What you can do, it's not right. No way. I don't believe that. But you also have a banner which you can use as a mirror. Here, cool. This terrain is based on Vancouver, but also true of Vancouver. Pretty neat. You have a little setback here as well.
Galera, que da
You have
hora.
a little fireplace on top too.
Isso.
Hold on. All of these are different. But lights off for the okay. What sites? I have no idea. Dangling light. And something else that if you are op
Depois a gente pega a parte 2, né, da de Nova York.
I'm sure there's other ways to get it, but essentially you can use a
Pra
light
gente ter uma ideia.
So if it'll get on hiding, want to go in there. Nice. How's it back? I'm really glad that color. I like that's cool. And up here, get a little, which is very interesting. So you can do a lot of interesting. Talking about. Really like that. It's a nice. This is cool. This is cool, which I like. And of course, but, let's go up to the top floor because I am curious here. Okay. Oh, cool. Oh, is this
Olha isso, velho. Aí o elevador, né, pelo jeito.
It is too.
É que eu acho que não tinha como fazer elevador no Minecraft.
New painting. And nice little. There you go. That's cool. Back here, sink. Oh, this must be either. There you go. Put it.
Vamos ver aqui as próximas etapas. Ixi, a internet não tancou. Então, galera, mas era mais para trazer para vocês sobre essa novidade que eu vi. Achei muito legal de trazer essa curiosidade para vocês. E... Deixa eu tirar a câmera aqui para vocês verem o cara, né? Ali.
That's cool. Is that like that's a wall and like half of it? I don't know how they did that. That's some crazy debug stuff.
A cara de nóia dele.
I really like this building. This one is very cool. I think it's also based on a real life New York one. Is there anything else? Have I shown you guys this one? I don't think I've shown you guys this one. This is one that I built, well, am building, work in progress. It's based on one in the west end of Vancouver. I have the shear wall, so you have an elevator, and then you have some stairs.
A parte de elevador e a parte de escada, vocês viram?
So this one is one of my favorite buildings. Let's go in here. So I did furnish the inside here as well. Not for me to decide. But this is typically how I build my living rooms. Pearl Harbor, Vancouver. This was built by Jeff. Very cool. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to put them yet. I may decide to make the center part a little more compact. Since East Village over there is already quite compact. And I kind of want to keep the theme of the compactness going. In some places I want to keep it almost as dense as Tokyo. Some places. I don't know if it'll be the same as this, but I don't know. We'll find out. But either way, I am going to find a home for these because these are really cool. This one is also one based in downtown Vancouver, which is adjacent to Cole Harbor. The goal of this city, so I may decide to a new building, a whole bunch of them, and then you just make them into different variations. Is the variety of this one, people have commented on Instagram saying, haha, evergreen. It should be, sideways. Very cool. Look at the amount of detail on this. This is incredible. And so these ships, they were all originally just like that. So essentially they were like north, south, east, west. And then I decided to use world edits and then put them on. You know what this is? That's the barge. There was a barge one that has gone to Vancouver.
Yeah. When I visited Vancouver, this one was actually docked twice when I was there.
Oh, cool. I love all the details on the top here too.
Oh yeah, thanks.
This ship, like even just on the top here, this would be really cool. Maybe for like a mini game or something. Because I know like we were talking a couple days ago about like that might happen to me.
Yeah, do you think this would be like a penthouse?
Yeah, it almost feels... ship's really cool. So the fourth...
Of course, most of the time was spent on the actual curvature itself, which was very confusing for me to figure out.
I in person quite a few times. Pretty much every time I go by any building, I try to subconsciously figure out how I would build it in Minecraft. Like the curve standing from over here, like south looking north, it almost kind of feels like a sine wave that's
like they're like linear of each other.
Incrível.
Like, and that's like something I really like about it.
I also really love this pool here. It's so
mais
nice.
de 4
nice
anos, galera. Mais de 2.000 players. Que da hora. Galera, se você gostou do vídeo, deixa aí seu like, deixa os comentários. Ajuda demais. E eu agradeço a todos que estavam aí até o final do vídeo. Obrigado mesmo de coração. E é isso que eu trouxe para vocês hoje. Espero que tenham gostado. Fique com Deus. Só para avisar que a gente faz live todos os dias aí, das 10 da noite à meia-noite. A gente faz live de CS, The Hunter, The Angler, FIFA, Fórmula 1. É tudo que vocês gostam de assistir aí. A gente tá fazendo e trazendo o melhor conteúdo para vocês da forma mais possível que eu consiga aí. E espero que vocês tenham gostado, tá bom? Até mais, fique com Deus. Valeu, tamo junto. É nóis. E fui. Valeu, galera. É nóis. Beleza.